everyone. We want to just take a look at an ideal ultrasound room. I want to use some images to help us understand, what makes an ideal ultrasound room. Because as professionals, you need to work in an environment that will aid your diagnosis and also give you what it takes to render a satisfactory service to your client, who is your patient. Because the patient is someone that comes with a lot of psychological problem, and they usually need an ideal environment to make them comfortable while you render your service. So there are certain things you should know about your ultrasound room to aid um, your influencing what I call your environment to effectively serve your client. So we'll just take a look at some images to help us um, expatiate on what an ideal ultrasound room should look like. So first and foremost, the room itself. The room needs to be a very spacious room that allows for um, the sonographer, the patient, and at least can accommodate one or two more persons. So it should be a sizable room. Then secondly, the ultrasound machine. Now the ultrasound machine should have all the necessary requirements to conduct the investigation that you are looking at. So it should have the necessary probes, and it should have a printer attached to it for documentation and printing out of your images. And remember, the kind of power system and supply we have in a country like ours, Nigeria, it's quite erratic and unstable. So it's important you have some form of voltage regulators like stabilizers and UPS to, back up your system. In fact, most systems usually develop fault as a result of bad power supply. So it's good you have an ideal voltage regulator or stabilizers to help out with safeguarding your machine. Then you need to have an ideal bed that aids your patients when they are lying down, and your bed should be as firm as possible to avoid accidents. I've seen some places where the kind of bed they have, the patient can easily fall from such, mostly those very bulky patients. So you should be mindful of the kind of bed you allow your patient to lie on to avoid accident, or injury. Also, the kind of chair you sit on is very important. You need to ensure you have an ideal chair that helps your posture. There's usually what we call ultrasound induced risk that has to do with waist pain or wrist pain, shoulder pain. People that are into sonography will understand that when you scan for so long, you tend to develop these issues. So you should know how to manage them. And one of the ways you manage waist pain and other risks that comes as a result of ultrasound practice is the kind of chair you sit on. You need to get a very good chair that can help your posture. So this is just for to analyze with this image. Then another thing we also need to also look at is the lighting. You should ensure that the lighting of the ultrasound room is very, very ideal, to help your illumination and your ability to visualize the ultrasound machine. It's usually advisable to have a variable lighting system that you can always vary depending on what you want to assess and the investigation you're undergoing. Then very important, it's good to have your restroom close to your ultrasound room. due to the kind of cases you are handling. Like if you are dealing with more of pelvic cases, it's not ideal for your patients to go a very long distance to ease themselves when they are very pressed. So it's good you have a restroom close to your, you know, ultrasound room. Also, a cooling system. These machines, they work for very long hours and they are on for a long time. So it's good you have a cooling system like an AC in your room to ensure that the external cooling is ideal to safeguard, your machine. Then it's also important you have, a writing section, like a writing table and more like an office setting where you can document your findings after scanning, a place where you can write your ultrasound report and key in most of those things into a system for proper storage of those documents or information. Remember, your ultrasound machine should have an ideal storage um, drive that helps to store the images and all the scan reports that you've generated. Then you have an external system that also helps as a backup and also helps you to prepare your report. Then to help your patient's ability to visualize what you are doing, it's also advisable to mount some form of patient monitor at a location that can easily be seen or watched by your patient. So very, very important. In most private facilities, these things are always taken serious to enhance patient satisfaction. So these are the also it's good you have a chaperone that helps you during certain sensitive investigation. When a male is the sonographer dealing with female patient and you have some sensitive body parts that needs to be, you know, a patient needs to be nude, you need a female chaperone to assist you, in conducting that investigation to avoid medical legal issues. So these are basically some little things I feel you needed to be aware of, that pertains to an ultrasound room. So I hope this will help.